Now on one, we cross to our Pebble Mill studios in Birmingham to join Pamela Armstrong and Alan Titchmarsh for Daytime Live.
Doris Collins talks about her extraordinary gifts. Animal Watch, we make a live visit to the PDSA in Croydon. The inscrutable art of growing miniature trees from a bonsai expert. And Review of the Week with a Difference from Willie, Rushton and Sam Kelly. And what a frenetic and hectic week it's been to review. And the two men, as I said, who are doing it, Willie Rushton and Sam Kelly, at the moment in the Brigadier and Uncle Mort at the Lyric Theatre Hammersmith.
Now,
Willie, I can see you as the Brigadier. You have the bearing, but I can't really see you doing Uncle Mort.
Oh, sound Wigan blood flows through my veins. So anyway, Sam's in charge of my northern accent.
Oh, aye.
But you're a refugee from a lower low, Sam.
Yes, I am, but I've changed a little.
That is why Uncle Mort talks like this.
We're going to let you look back at the past week. We've also got with us Doris Collins, who's going to be looking forward, I suppose, Doris. I suppose I ought to say to you what's going to happen next week.
Well, I can tell you one thing. You're not going to have a clairvoyant next week. And
Amazing. You're absolutely right.
And also, I'd like to say to you, you better be careful because you're doing something to your house. And your wife's far better able to manage the money than you are. So watch the kitchen and the conservatory.
You heard that, dear, didn't you? We won't get that second mortgage now, I don't think. Yeah, this could be a bit embarrassing, this. We're also going to Croydon, to the PDSA, where Floella is, I hope, looking after the animals. Hello, Flo.
Hello, darling. It's lovely down here in Croydon. Because, you know, Alan, we've had hospital watch, we've had airport watch. Well, today on Daytime Live, we bring you the PDSA watch. Because, as you say, I'm in Croydon at the PDSA Centre, one of 57 branches spread right across the country from Aberdeen to Plymouth. Now, the PDSA, that's the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, started up over 70 years ago in the East End of London. And last year, this particular branch here in Croydon treated over 25,000 animals. Well, we're going to find out what happens on a typical morning and follow the fortunes of one Mr. Cook, a cat who came in earlier today.
Hello, Muriel.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Now, tell me, how's Mr. Cook today?
Oh, he's all right.
What have you brought him in for?
To have a pin taken out his leg.
Well, let's go and see what the vet has to say, shall we? You're not too worried, are you?
No.
No? See you later.
We certainly will see you later, and Mr. Cook, I think. Now, what is it that makes a young Mozart or a young Beethoven or a young Bach? Now, obviously, it's something very special to do with the relationship with sound and music. Well, there is a one Professor Azo Eto from Japan who says it's a skill that we can all develop, but only if we're taught in the right way from a very early age. Now, he's here in Britain this week to explain how he produces young composers and musicians. But first, let's hear from one of his protégés, Lara Theresa Weber, aged 9. She's going to perform one of her own works, Kinderzeit, or Childhood. Mr. Eto, you say that the way you teach children helps
Yes.
them be more creative and more imaginative musicians. What's different about your technique?
Yes, there are 2 points. One is we teach from young stage, such as the age of 4 or 5. And the second point is let the children to study music as they are studying their mother tongue, first language. They listen and they copy and they will get it very easily.
So it's not lots and lots of boring scales or sitting for hours and hours at the piano. It's much more like learning your own language.
That's right, and very effective and enjoyable way. Yeah.
Well, let's show us just a tiny bit of how you go about it.
May I do some demonstration? Okay, this is listen and copy, all right?
So Lara is listening and copying what you
so
say.
she can catch up, right? And also, based on this small melody, I think she can improvise.
That's lovely. I think a little round of applause for Lara. Isn't that lovely? Now, well done. Now, she listened to a few notes, and then are you saying that she did that improvisation out of her imagination just from hearing those 3 notes?
That's right.
And she could do that with any notes you play her?
Because the creativity is for everyone. It is very easy for children.
But how do you get her started? Because that was quite complex.
First, she listen and she will copy, and she will act it, play, and she can gradually get the sense of music, every fundamental music sense. Then it's very easy to create music.
We have a new exam system starting in this country soon, the GCSE.
That's what I know.
And apparently the emphasis in the music exam is going to be quite different. It's going to be much more onto this creative level. Is that going to be better, do you think, for the students?
I think so. I'm very happy to hear like that, because this is a new GCSE, is that right?
That's right.
This is a kind of a new field of music education in state school system. And I'm very happy to hear like that. And creativity is not, as I mentioned, it's very natural human nature. Everyone can do, but what they need is a kind of motivation and willingness and technique.
And also a little bit of hard work. It can be hard work sometimes.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, no, you don't.
I don't think so. It's very easy for them. A bit hard for us, but for them, it's very easy.
Because they're so young and they absorb things
that's right.
when they're very young. Now, you're quite keen on your students to play in groups, aren't you? Because you say there's a whole social aspect to music which they can learn. And you also are keen to teach on electronic keyboards because they're actually easier for the small hands of children.
That's right.
Why is that important?
Okay, there are a couple of points. For example, first of all, it's very easy to produce beautiful and correct pitch. And also, it's very good for the group tuition in a classroom situation. And also, because of that, they can enjoy the very various music ensembles. And while they are playing ensembles, this will establish not only the sense of music, but also the social skills of children.
Well, let's hear the Surrey Keyboard Ensemble, who are going to play an arrangement of yours.
Yes,
So we have in the studio just now. It's an extract from Vivaldi's Four Seasons.
wonderful sound. It seems that the Japanese influence is everywhere now, even in gardening, not just in Japanese gardens outside, but also in bonsai, the oriental art and craft of growing these wonderful miniature trees in bowls that can be many centuries old in some cases. But I don't know about you, it terrifies me, the prospect of tackling something like a juniper like this and turning it into such a thing of beauty. And if you go and look in a book, I mean, you'll find implements like these which terrify the living daylights out of you, like instruments of torture for pulling toenails out. Well, one man who has solved all these problems at a stroke in his book called Bonsai Masterclass is a man I've met a few times before and seen his wonderful work, Peter Chan. Peter, are you really going to convince me that even a bimbo like me could do this kind of thing?
Yes, indeed. You don't have to be a young child to start bonsai. You can learn from quite an old age. So we can all do it.
But you can start off your plants, presumably, quite young from sort of little seeds like this little lot here.
That's right. Those are Japanese greybark elm seeds. The stages of growth are shown in the examples here.
Now, we can sow these, what, outside in the garden?
That's right. They're ordinary hardy tree seeds.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? You see, people will buy packets that say bonsai trees on them, and there's really no such thing in terms of seed
No, they don't
form.
turn into bonsai trees just by growing them in a pot or in the soil.
They
you
turn
have
into
to
wacky
train
great things like that.
Exactly.
How old's this one, this little
That
chap
one
here?
is 2 years old from seed.
And moving on a bit?
That one is 6 years old.
And this one?
And that one is 17 years old.
Oh, there's a bit of a difference, isn't there,
Yes,
between 6
it
and
has
17?
been manicured over many years.
Well, Peter, you know, we've seen chats like this on television before and people say it's easy. Can I put you to the supreme test? We've got a little larch tree here that you brought with you in a pot, but what I want you to do is to show us physically how you would create a little larch tree like that from one of those. Now, there's a rotten challenge.
Well...
And you've got 3 minutes to do it.
Okay, I'll take this challenge up.
Right, I'll do all the passing. What do you want? I'll bring
fine.
some implements.
Well, these are 3 to 4 year old larch seedlings which were dug up from the field in which they were grown only yesterday. And I will turn this into the larch which you saw a moment ago.
It's magic, this, isn't
Most of the shaping has to be done by wiring. Unless you shape it, it will simply be an ordinary tree which will grow in a very unkempt and crude manner, and it will never look like a refined bonsai.
This is the antithesis of beautifying creams for women, really, to make them look younger, isn't it? You're actually using wires to make them look older.
Not just to make them look older, but also to give them the classical bonsai shape. Wires are used to shape it in the same way that you would use the brace for people's teeth, so that you can get.
So you've got one wire. That's copper wire by the looks
That's
of it.
copper wire. You can use aluminium as well, but copper wire looks better because you can hardly tell the color of the bark and the copper wire.
All right, what do we do with it then?
So we've now wired the trunk, which is the first step. We then twist it into the classical S shape, which resembles the tree there. And then we determine how tall the tree is going to be. So we cut it off there.
That's pretty crucial,
And
isn't
then
it?
we will quickly trim them back. We can now put it in the pot.
So you're not cutting any root off, you're stuffing
No.
all the root in?
I think the fallacy is that
Okay,
you
we know
have
that.
to cut the root to dwarf it. But cutting the root is only done to make it fit the pot.
You'd
So-
trust an ordinary gardener like me then
Yes,
to do this, would you?
Because it's ordinary horticulture, but with an artistic element
No.
to it. So bonsai is an art form. It's not just horticulture. So anyone with
That's a
slight
bit-
artistic bent would
can
be
do
able
it.
to do it. So
Well-
that is the basic trunk shape, which we've done in virtually a minute. Next, we need to shape the branches so that the branches all lie in the proper place.
So this is thinner wire going on now.
Thinner wire, because the branches are thinner, the trunk is thick.
Yeah.
But you don't need such thick wire.
So they go, the thin wires go on the little branches.
Yes.
Wrapping it now round the trunk and then a bit round the other branch. So you can use
Yes.
one piece of wire
To anchor the branches.
Right.
That's right.
and then we work up the tree. Isn't it rotten making you do this in 3 minutes when, I mean, some of these things, you know, 300 years old?
No, but a lot of these commercial trees are mass-produced in very short space of time.
While you're doing that, let's just have a quick glance over the shoulder there and look at some of these beauties at the back, because we've got this cluster of white-stemmed trees at the back there, real crackers. Now, what's that little plantation there?
That's Japanese white beech. It's similar to our ordinary Fagus sylvatica, but this is Fagus crenata, and that group is about 45 years old.
So not too old there. You can get
No.
something quite a decent time.
No.
The thing really, though, is, Peter, people think of them as houseplants. They're not, are they? They belong in the garden.
The traditional bonsai are hardy plants because they are temperate climate trees, although there are some trees which can be grown indoors, and they are tropical and Mediterranean trees.
But the hardy stuff not. Peter, you've done a wonderful job in 3 minutes. Instant bonsai trees, virtually. But we've also had a bit of disaster at your nursery, I gather, because in the past few weeks, some trees have been pinched. So stand by for a news flash, please. Stolen from Peter Chan's nursery, so if you see them or somebody tries to pass them off to you, let us know here on Daytime Live. This is in fact a picture of the first one. Peter, what's that?
This is a Chinese elm. It's not a very big tree, but very old. It's 50 years old and only measures 12 inches high.
And the second one? Here it is.
That's a Japanese larch, which was grown from seed 17 years ago. So it's more the sentimental value than the real monetary value which counts.
And you're offering a £50 reward for
each of the trees.
and either of them, right? So if you want a £50 reward, keep an eye open for those 2 trees of Peter's. Meanwhile, I'll take care of this little plant here, but Floella is taking care, I think, of Mr. Cook. How's he doing, Flo?
I certainly am here, Alan, and we are back here live at the PDSA, following the fortunes, as Alan said, of Mr. Cook the cat. Now, he's had his operation. There he is. Hello, darling, how are you? He's still a little drowsy and a bit sleepy, but in fact, he's much more alert than he was a bit earlier on. Just have a look at the chain of events that happened to him earlier on today. All right, sweetheart? All right.
Muriel, tell me a bit about the history behind Mr. Cook. Why did you bring him here in the first place?
Well, he come home one day and his leg was just sort of hanging and he couldn't put it down.
And how did it happen?
Oh, I don't know. Been out.
Well, was he in a lot of pain, obviously?
Well, he was crying a bit.
So you brought him along here to the
Yeah.
PDSA. Now, Paddy, you are the senior vet here.
Yes.
What treatment did you give Mr. Cook when he first came in?
Well, first of all, we took him in. He would have been, we'd have had to have anaesthetised him and taken an X-ray to determine what kind of fracture there was. And he'd actually broken this bone here, where you can see where it's shaved.
Yeah. Was it a nasty?
Well, it was quite nasty indeed. And what we did was put a stainless steel pin in and some wire, some stainless steel wire.
Really? Just like you would a human?
Yes, just the same.
Didn't it hurt him? Was it discomfort?
No, not at all, no.
No discomfort at all for him?
No, they don't have any sort of problem with pain because, you know, psychologically they don't know they're going to have any, you know.
And it's still in there now?
Oh, it is, yes.
And he's walking around all right?
Yes, well, you can see he can stand on it, look.
Oh,
see?
yes. Now, tell me, what are you going to do with him today?
Well, today we'll give him another anaesthetic, X-ray it again, and if the bone is knitted, then we'll just take the pin out.
Oh, so it won't be a gory operation?
Oh, no,
Or
not
people are
at
having
all.
their lunch now?
No, nothing like that.
Great. Now, Paddy, this is the original X-ray of Mr. Cook's injury. What does it show?
What it shows is this bone here, which is this one here in your arm, has been broken. You can see where the fracture is. That there should be there. Incidentally, this little object here is an air gun pellet, which the cat has been shot at some time in his life, but it's not doing him any harm, so we don't remove it. If there was a sinus there, then of course we'd remove it.
And you take it out?
Yes. The cat's been anaesthetized, as you know, and then we took this X-ray, and what we've done is we put this pin...
Yeah, this white bit here is the pin.
That's a stainless steel pin. We pushed it right up, out through the skin, and then introduced it back down into this part of the fracture, so the two bones are now together, as you can see, from there.
But he came in with that
here.
this morning, though. That's the pin he came in with
Yes,
this morning.
that's right.
And
This
that's
is when
the wire.
we did. Yes, and then we put this wire on as well to stabilize even further.
So what are you going to do today?
Well, what we're going to do now is just make a little nick in the skin there, and withdraw this pin.
No, you've covered him all up. Why have you covered his face and his whole body up?
Well, because, you know, cats are very fluffy, and there's a lot of dust on them, and we've got to always maintain sterility if we can.
So what happens next then, Paddy?
Well, what we will do, I'll just get my things ready. We're going to make, you remember I said on the X-ray, we're going to make a little nick in the skin here. I can just feel the end of the pin there.
Do you
And
reckon
this
you
is-
got this bone fractured?
Oh, I'm sure
from a
this
road
is, I'm
accident?
sure this is a road
It
accident.
wouldn't have been the pellet that did it.
Oh, no, not at all. The pellet had nothing to do with this.
No.
There we are, there's just a bit of fluid there.
Oh yes, I see.
I'll just get rid of that.
Is it all right that I'm not actually dressed in a green coat and not sterile?
Absolutely all right, as long as you're not interfering with what we're doing. I'm
Now,
just
what sort
gonna-
of other animals have you had in today that you'd have to operate on?
Well, we have actually got a Doberman with a suspected fracture as well. So he's in the process today of being X-rayed, just like this one was.
Do you specialise in these sort of operations then yourself?
Well, it's just that, yes, I've always been interested in orthopedic surgery.
And the cat's, Mr. Cook's not feeling anything at all?
Not
is
in
he?
this one, you can see he's not moving, is he?
No, it's not hurting
Absolutely
him.
calm, and we've got a wonderful anaesthetist there who's watching
job.
everything.
It's actually quite fascinating, isn't it?
Yes.
So do you just concentrate on bones yourself?
I do, well, I mean, we all do everything that there is to do, but every vet in the PDSA has this wonderful opportunity to specialise, you know, because we do such a variety of surgery. There's the pin now,
Oh
you
yes, I
see.
can see it much clearer now, yes.
See?
Well done.
That's wonderful. That's great. So we'll take it out a little bit more.
So Mr. Cook will be back as new.
He will.
How long will it take it for this little nick you put in to heal up? The cut you put in there.
That will, in about 3 days' time it'll be. There we are.
Wonderful.
There's the pin.
Ah.
As you can see, that's what was in there. No, I'm just going to put a little stitch inside as well, because the
What
amount
about the wire you put in there?
the wire will stay in.
The wire will stay in?
The wire will stay in. It won't cause any problem
No?
whatsoever, you know.
So you'll have a wire and a pellet inside his leg still?
You'll have quite a lot of ironmongery.
Yes.
Yeah. There we are.
I see. And these stitches will dissolve themselves?
This one will. This is actually catgut. There we are.
Wonderful, well done. Now, how is he?
Let's have a look at him. We'll take these off, shall we?
So Muriel will be pleased it's gone so well.
She will.
Yes. She wasn't too nervous, was she? She seemed quite calm, but obviously she knows he's in good hands.
There we are.
Oh, it's wonderful. Can I touch him now?
Of course you can.
Ah, Mr. Cook. And that's what's happened to our Mr. Cook, who's been rather brave, don't you think, Pam?
Floella, I think Mr. Cook has been brave. I think you've been very brave, being able to stand there. We're all really looking forward to our lunch now.
Oh, well, it wasn't that bad, actually. It's better being here than actually probably watching it.
I think it possibly was. When is he going to be reunited with his owners?
Well, as you can see, Mr. Cook's still a little drowsy, so Paddy will have to check him before he goes off home, which should be before the end of the programme. So we'll see you then again.
All right, look forward to that. Thanks ever so much, Floella.
Bye, darling.
And hope he continues to make the progress he is doing.
Yes.
And still to come, whispering round the corner, I'll be starting our new budget garden. Floella Benjamin discovers more behind the scenes of the PDSA, and we meet clairvoyant and healer Doris Collins.
You know what they say about us Yorkshiremen? Yorkshire born and Yorkshire bred. Strong in arm and good in most other ways as well. Well, that's my version of it and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, I was thinking that we've been having far too many wishy-washy southerners doing Review at Week recently. It's about time we had an honest-to-God North Country view at World. So, courtesy of Peter Tinniswell, we've invited along two men who typify Northern spirit, Carter Brandon and his Uncle Mort. Now, Uncle Mort, I mean, talking of animals, have you ever had a pet?
Well, the last dog I had before I married your Auntie Edna was a crossbreed. He were half thoroughbred mongrel and half runcorn lurcher. He were intelligent. When he were poorly, we didn't send him to the vet. We just gave him a note and he went off on his own. I bet you could have read the prescription too if he hadn't eaten my dad's glasses. It came on our honeymoon, did Norbert. He scratched all night, thump, 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 thump. I got some right admiring glances from a bloke in the bedroom below next morning.
Do you like Nat Mills and Bobby?
No, I can't stand them.
Good. Neither can I.
Well, I mean, what have you been doing this week then?
Well, we had breakfast, didn't we?
All right.
Fried eggs, fried tomatoes, baked beans, bacon, lamb chops, spaghetti hoops, And the tripe left over from last night's supper. Then we stopped at home, really, didn't we?
Oh, one of the great treats about going out for the day is stopping at home.
Is it?
Oh, aye. I mean, think what the world would be like if everybody stopped at home and never went out. Perfection. There'd be no more wars, there'd be no muggings in the street, there'd be no vandalism or violence, and nobody'd ever turn up to hear Mary O'Hara in concert with her whingy little voice. Yeah. Do you fancy a fisherman's friend?
Oh, I do. I've not had one since last November. Did you know Arthur Scargill has a twin brother?
No, get away.
Oh, right, yeah. Dawnford. Dawnford Scargill. Not a lot of people know that. Oh. He's the black sheep of the family, you see.
Well, where were Dawnford born?
Lancashire.
Oh, well, he would be the black sheep of the family.
Yeah. Where were you born, Uncle Mo?
On the back kitchen table.
Were you?
Oh, aye. Well, in them days, everything happened on the back kitchen table. I mean, if you needed an operation, you had to go to hospital, you couldn't afford it, so you had to make do with the back kitchen table. You know, they hardly had time to side away the pots on the table the day I was born.
No?
No, and Dad were bathing the dog at the time. I mean, him and the midwife had a right tussle before she found the space for my mother and the impending me. Do you know, when I was born, they found my right foot covered in homemade chutney. And God knows where the teaspoon went. I wonder what happened to that back kitchen table.
I don't know.
It's been sold for a fortune in some Ponzi antique shop. It's down in London now, all polished and done up, and they're sitting around it talking about poetry and eating Italian food in fishermen's smocks and open-toed sandals. Yeah. That's all we are in the north nowadays, antiques. Yeah. We're not real to them in the south anymore. By God, if they hadn't got us to go, Pat, there'd be no television on the BBC.
No, I suppose not.
Do you know what? If I went to a taxidermist and got myself stuffed, I'd make a fortune as an ornament. What, in some arty-farty Hampstead front parlour, owned by a lady novelist with knock knees and a face like the back of a tram?
Yeah.
Oh, fate worse than death.
Yeah. Do you like Beryl Bainbridge?
Who the bloody hell are they?
I think she's famous.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's North like now, then,
Oh, it's gone to the dogs. I mean, in the good old days, you had the Great Depression, you had poverty, misery, despair, you had disease. Yeah. You knew where you stood, down and out and terminally on your knees. I mean, in the good old days of my youth, the North stood unique and solid. We hadn't been polluted by the South. We were real people then. People created in the image of what God intended people to be. Surly, bronchial, unpleasant company and congenitally rude to strangers. Yeah. Now, I blame the television for all our ills today. It's made us all exactly the same. All them weather forecasters in coloured jumpers, all them lady newsreaders getting divorced left, right and centre, all them incessant royal weddings with big ears and bald patches. It's all designed to make us all look exactly identical, the same as everybody else. Right. I mean, look at me. Look at me, I served through the whole First World War. Now, could you tell the difference between me and Pamela bloody Armstrong?
No, apart from your muffler and your cloth cap. Hey, you call yourself a northerner, don't you, Mr. Titchmarsh? I've got a little test for you. What was the colour of Wallasey Corporation buses?
Daffodil yellow.
Oh, clever sod.
Bloody brain of Britain.
Ladies and gentlemen, Willie Rushton and Sam.
Kelly.
Kelly! I had so many lines to remember there, I forgot his name again. Now starring in The Brigadier and Uncle Mort at the Lyric Theatre, Hammersmith. Yes. Godfather.
Till April the 9th.
Till April the 9th. And starring at the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals in Croydon is Floella Benjamin. I think they can tell the difference between her and an animal. More animals, Flo, I think, now.
Yes, Alan. I don't know if you can hear all the howling behind us because there's lots of activity here back at the PDSA Centre in Croydon. And with me now is Edward Jones, the Regional Veterinary Officer. Hello. Edward, tell me a bit about the philosophy behind the PDSA. What sort of people come here?
The philosophy is that we provide veterinary services for financially and disadvantaged people, socially and financially disadvantaged people who can't afford private veterinary fees. We provide a modern veterinary service for their pets.
I see. And what sort of treatment do people in general bring their pets here for?
They bring them here for a wide variety of treatment, anything that they would go to a private veterinary surgeon for. But mostly we concentrate on the acutely ill animal, the sort of thing we've already seen, animals with fractures as a result of road accidents, animals with infectious diseases that suddenly are ill and are going to cost their owners more than their owners can afford.
Not vaccinations and things like that?
Not vaccinations. Things like that we think people should plan ahead for. If you're going to get a pet, you think, what does it need? It needs vaccination, it may need neutering. Plan for that, budget for that. But if it's suddenly run over and you want to save its life and you can't afford the fee, we're here to help
Like
you.
Mr. Cook this morning.
Like Mr.
He was
Cook.
brave and wonderful, wasn't he?
Oh, yes.
Now
Typical.
tell me, we follow the fortunes of Mr. Cook and his progress.
Yes.
What other animals have come in this morning?
Well, there's a range here. You can see these, in fact, haven't come in this morning. These are inpatients. They've been here for the whole winter. These, as you can see, are tortoise reptiles. They are cold-blooded.
They feel warm, though, even though...
That's because we've been keeping them warm.
Ah.
But they hibernate in the winter naturally. The problem is in this country that if they experience a cold summer, they don't eat adequately, they don't build up enough fat, they've got no bodily reserves for hibernation, so they die during hibernation.
During the winter?
Yes, that's what happens to most tortoises.
So if you have a pet tortoise, it's best to keep it warm in the winter?
Keep it warm in the summer to make it eat.
In the summer
If
as
it
well.
isn't heavy enough, when it's hibernation time, then don't let it go to sleep or it'll wake up dead.
Oh, poor darlings. But these ones look nice and healthy.
Well, these are...
Well, that bedraggled parrot there doesn't look too healthy at all. What's his problem?
Well, his problem is boredom.
Boredom?
Boredom. Parrots are lively, intelligent animals. They like to have a lot of attention and a lot of action. When they're not kept under ideal conditions, they begin to develop substitution activities, and one of the main ones is feather plucking.
Just plucks his...
He pulls his feathers out as fast as they grow.
Well, surely it must hurt him.
Well, it does hurt him, but he's rather committed to it.
I like he's still got his tail feathers, though, hasn't he? But perhaps
Yes.
he can't reach round for those tail lines.
I'm sure he can reach. I think it's probably just a matter of time. They'll be gone
Well,
soon.
obviously, it must cost a lot of money to look after pets like these. So how does the PDSA get its money?
It's entirely dependent upon public support. It totally depends on the public thinking that we're doing a worthwhile job.
Because you're a charity, aren't
Because
you?
we're a charity, most of the money comes from bequests and from fundraising. Most of the money comes in the form of donations from our clients, people who give as much as they can in recognition of the service they've
So you depend on the
achieved.
kindness of people, then?
We depend on them thinking we're doing something worthwhile.
Now tell me, are you going to be kind to me? Because you tell me you've got a surprise here in this basket for me.
Yes.
What could it be?
Well,
Open up and see.
Open up and see.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
It's big.
It certainly is big.
My good, what is it?
It's a python.
A python? I've never felt a python before. It's heavy.
It's heavy,
and big.
and muscular and big. Now this one is a success story, except that it is so big it's no longer feasible to keep it as a pet. And the problem with these animals is that people get them without really thinking either of the final outcome or what they need.
And they get pythons as pets?
They get them as pets.
Do they
and
know
then
it'll grow this big then?
they don't know how big it'll grow. If they're successful, it will grow. If they're not successful, it won't grow at all. It will succumb. It's like the tortoises. It's a cold-blooded animal.
So it needs to keep warm.
Special conditions to keep it warm.
Mind you, it's lovely to touch. Whoops.
Yep,
Don't
sorry,
leave me
sorry,
there in
sorry.
the basket. Now, it's been quite an eye-opener here down at the PDSA. And I tell you something, if you want to see behind the scenes for yourself, well, you can, because the BBC Daytime Club are arranging visits all over the country at PDSA centres. So if you are interested, well, why not write to the BBC Daytime Club? That's at P.O. Box 100, Winchester, Hants, SO 239AF. I'll repeat that. That's the BBC Daytime Club, P.O. Box 100, Winchester, Hants, SO 239AF. Now, Edward, you're dealing with pets all day and animals.
Yes.
Are you a pet man yourself? Have you got pets of your
I'm
own?
afraid so, rather a lot of them.
Tell me, are you with a northern accent a ferret man or?
Not a ferret man, but pretty close. I'm a whippet man.
A whippet man?
I brought along one of my whippets.
Hey! He's
Now,
gorgeous.
this one I brought along to introduce for a special reason. This is a Kennel Club registered whippet. All Kennel Club dogs have to have registered names. This one was named after a famous children's broadcaster.
Not Floella.
This is Floella.
That's a surprise. Hello, Floella, darling. It's lovely to meet you. Mwah. You're gorgeous. She's wonderful. You're wonderful, darling. Floella the second, eh?
Floella the second.
What do you think of that, then?
Don't you believe it, Flo? It's not a whippet, it's a runcorn lurcher, if ever I saw one. Small dog, but then small is beautiful, just like these miniature daffodils. Don't worry, we hadn't forgotten about the gardens outside. It's just with the old leg, it took me a bit of time to get going in them. This one, you remember, is the designer garden, the one that we had On our sort of largish budget of several £1,000s, we had a man come and lay it all out for us, rather like a fitted kitchen. It's doing beautifully now, the millstone fountain's working well. I'm going to be out here cutting the lawn and starting on that in the next week or two, so don't panic, that's when we'll sort it out. But just over the fence here is, for the people who haven't got lots of cash to spare, the budget garden. Now this really is beauty on a budget. It's going to cost very little money at all. It's a piece of clean land. Yes, I know you've got bedsteads and weeds in yours and you've got to get rid of those first. But I wanted here a garden that would offer colour, something to eat, but with great speed and very little money. So if you like, it's a bit of an instant garden. It's been cleaned and cleared of weeds, the ground has been levelled, and I've used bricks to mark out a very simple pattern. There's a path runs right round the edge and a cross in the middle, cutting up this garden into lots of little beds. Now the path itself here, I've just put gravel in, because gravel is incredibly cheap. Washed pea shingle from your builder's merchant is just as good, and it really is the cheapest surface, can be laid, as I have done here, on just plain firmed earth. And the bricks here, which are an optional extra, you don't need to use them unless you really want to, but they give it that slightly smarter look. And into the soil here, I'm mixing, well, you can get peat, you know, from the local nursery or garden centre, that goes in well, forking a bit of peat in, and just a dusting of fertiliser. This stuff's in sort of granular form, a handful to about every square yard. With that forked in, as well as the peat, I'm then going to be ready to sow all kinds of hardy vegetables straight out into the border running right round the outside. Runner beans will give me a bit of height, as will the sweet peas. And then in these triangular drifts here, I'm going to be sowing hardy annuals. These are the flower seeds that you sow direct into the soil where you want them to bloom. And with a few twiggy pea sticks laid over the top, that'll keep the cats off. And with any luck, we'll be able to show you during the course of spring, and with a bit of cheated photography during the summer, how it developed. The only thing is, you can't be work shy. And talking of which, what a wonderful link. A new group called Workshy, who write all their own numbers. This is their first time on television, and here we are with, rather like the budget garden, it's yours for the taking.
Time wasted, it's time to go and wipe the bitter taste from mouths that used to smile. Eyes that told me this was worth it for a while. Leaving love that was always yours. It was for the taking. It was for the taking. The words got in the way, how green. But that was all they were. I could hold to it fast. I knew what could last with a love that was always yours. It was for the taking. It was for the taking. Maybe I've moved with too much haste somehow. I'm tired of waiting for the story to unfold. Your claim has been sold on a love that was always yours. It's for the taking. For the
Workshy there and yours for the taking. Now, Doris Collins says that she is the most ordinary woman that you are ever likely to meet. Yet, she's been developing her clairvoyant powers since the age of 12, and she now holds court to many thousands of people as she demonstrates her controversial skills worldwide. She's been criticised and praised in equal measures, but never ignored. Doris, you're too big a personality to ignore however you may feel about you, but you're not ordinary, are you?
Oh, I would think so, yes. I'm a wife, a mother and a grandmother, and I lead a very normal, ordinary life when I'm not working as I'm working today. I garden, I needlework, and I cook. And every night my husband, as I'm home, does expect me to have a meal in front of him.
What about your working life, though? That's where maybe the extraordinary creeps in, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Then I become a different person. I know my children say I'm Doris Collins, the mother, and Doris Collins, the psychic.
And they're two different people?
Yeah, they are two different people. Because, in a way, you step up your vibration to link with an unseen audience. And while I'm talking to you, I had a lady standing behind the back of you. She put her hand on your shoulder, and I would think she was 2 generations back. I should thought she was your grandmother. Now, your name is Pamela, but she said, Mary, and you have my name. Can you understand that?
Yes, well, my middle names come from both my grandmothers. In fact, one was called Mary.
Ah, well, that's all right. So she seems very proud of what you've achieved, but I know that you don't want me to talk publicly here about your life.
Oh, no, do. I'm dying to find out. In fact, I want to bring Alan on, actually, because we've already had... Alan's had his fair share.
Come on.
Come on, Alan.
Come on.
You're not going to... No, I'm not.
No, bringing reinforcements. Sorry, go on, I just interrupted.
Strangely enough, because I feel I'm taking you back about 2 years ago in your life for quite a difficult situation whereby you had to walk one way. Now, I don't know anything about you, fortunately, and I've never met you.
No, you wouldn't want to.
But although you didn't want to do it, in a way you were pushed into this role, and it's the best thing that you could have done, because since you made that decision, your life has changed and things have got very much more progressive financially and in every way for you. Do you understand this?
Yes, I've stashed the pots of gold under the bed.
That's
it's
all right,
much, much better now.
But your grandmother said to me you've changed your hairstyle twice.
Yes, I know, it's terribly confusing for everyone. It's confusing for her, it's also confusing for me. I wake up in the morning, I'm not quite sure where I am.
Yeah, but I haven't changed my hairstyle twice.
Well, that's all right.
But that's really nice. That's really nice.
But she was really a nice lady.
She was lovely. But Doris, you must get people who say to you, I don't quite believe it. I mean, you must get tired of people like me saying to you, people don't believe it.
That happens all the time.
Do you ignore them?
Oh, well, yes, at my age now it doesn't really matter, because I never wanted to be a professional anyway. I was forced into that position by probably criticism and the outside world, and I have no ability to change now because it's my life.
How do you handle what is often very sensitive information, or what you've just told me is interesting and nice to hear, but
that's pretty easy.
You're actually dealing often with people who died because they've been murdered, or died because they have suicide.
Really. Yesterday, in fact, I should have shown this to you. Yesterday, a letter came. I get hundreds of letters, as you know, came through my post box, and I opened it, and it was from a very grateful lady. Now, lots of people say you make people unhappy or disturbed. Now, this lady had come to me because an entrepreneur, who is quite a famous man, phoned me up and said to me, Doris, would you see a friend of mine's wife? I said, well, I haven't got time now, I'm on the book and blah, blah, blah. But he said, well, it's important. So I said, all right, I will fit her in. Now, she came into my home and she didn't believe a word. And immediately she sat down. First of all, I gave her a cup of coffee because people get very disturbed. And then I took her up into the little room where I work. And immediately she sat down. I said, I have your son here who died very tragically. She said, I don't believe it. He gave his name, he gave the name of his brother who was at home, and I don't mind saying this because you don't know the lady's name, but this boy was quite healthy. He was 24. He went to Mallorca for a holiday, and he was laying on the sunbed, and suddenly he choked and couldn't breathe, and he died.
And it must have been reassuring, perhaps, for the mother to know that whatever one may feel about an afterlife, that in some way he was communicating. Do you normally get what you call vibrations
will go up there,
of people?
But you know, the strangest thing about it was the lady thanked me very much and went home. And of course, by yesterday's post she came. She said, I was too stunned to thank you properly, Doris. And I do wish to thank you now. You've given me back my son. I feel I haven't lost him. And when can I come again, please? Well, of course, I won't see anybody more than once a year anyway. Now, I'd like to go up there because I had a very strong feeling while I was up there just before talking to a lady at the end. Now, don't be afraid to answer me because communication is a two-way business, of course. Do you understand that? The lady at the end. Yes, that's right. Now, open your mouth and talk to me.
Yeah, what
No, the lady here.
This lady.
With glasses.
That's right, with glasses, yes. Don't be afraid.
No.
There's nobody here but you and I. Now, you had a gentleman standing there with you, behind you. Do you understand this?
Yes.
And he would have passed, I would have thought, rather quickly. He shared your life. Can you understand this?
Yes.
Don't be afraid to talk. Forget everybody else. There's nobody here but you and I. He loved you very much. And I felt that in your handbag you have something belonging to him. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have his picture?
No.
You have his picture? Not in the bag, you have his picture?
A picture, yes.
Because he said to me, there's never a night goes by that you don't talk to me.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And, oh, you've got his watch?
I have got a watch, yes.
He gave it to you?
Yes.
That's it. Because he took me to the watch, you see. Very important.
Do you find it reassuring to be told these kinds of facts?
I find it very surprising, but yes, reassuring.
I suppose, Doris, you're going to be getting different reactions from different people, depending on the kinds of things you've told them, and also whether they've experienced something like this before.
Well, it's very difficult, but you know, our loved ones don't come back to us to hurt us or harm us. I'm quite sure when my mother contacted me, the first thing she wanted to say was, Doris, I'm going to help you in every way. I love you.
Doris Collins, thank you very much for joining us and
Thank
talking
you.
about all your messages.
Thank
this
you for
morning.
being so nice.
Nice
It's
to see.
amazing.
I'm quite stunned by all that, really. I mean, the little list of people, you know, I'm going to look forward now to next week, and I predict that on this programme next week we'll be able to talk to June Whitfield, Howard Keel, Sir Anthony Quayle, Coo Stark, Des O'Connor, Sebastian Coe and Alan Wells. Can you afford to miss it? Of course you can't. Have a smashing weekend. See you next week. Bye-bye.